Over my lifetime, I've had over 5,000 meetings with entrepreneurs. I spent another 2,000 meetings trying to tell founders how they should sell to other founders. You know what I realized? 90% of them believe they will achieve their goals if they simply make the best product and just do their job well. That's a good strategy if you decided to open a hair salon in a quiet neighborhood. But with that approach, you will never build a company with $1 billion valuation. I decided to launch this video series How to Sell AI because of a reason I discovered during mentorship. There is a widespread myth that you have to be born with a natural talent for sales. That if you didn't come out of your mom holding a briefcase, you'll never succeed in negotiations. To me, that's a just convenient excuse. It's always easier to say, I'm not a dancer, or I'm an introvert, or anything else that lets you avoid learning a new skill. Or you might think, I'll just hire a salesperson and he will do everything for me. But the truth of business is that you will always have to negotiate. Even the salary you negotiate with that salesperson determines if the economics of your funnel actually work. The US Federal Reserve Board published a study showing that 10% difference in earnings determines where you end up in 30 years, with a 4 times difference in wealth. Now, imagine if you learn to demonstrate value so well that employees' work cost you 10% less. Imagine if you invested that 10% into marketing. Would that give you an advantage over your competitors? Modern IT businesses are very complex systems that use a ton of third-party solutions. Imagine negotiating 10% off with all your suppliers. I managed to overcome this silly idea of natural-born talent by showing entrepreneurs that negotiation isn't a set of random accidents. It is a science, just like mathematics. If you know the right formula, you can solve any problem. And any science requires a simple explanation. Today our task is to understand where we are right now and what will happen in the near future. Let's start from the very beginning.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word.
Oops, not that beginning. Picture this. Up until the 18th century, the majority of people are villagers. They plow the land, sow grain, and wait for rain. The only thing occupying their thoughts for most of the day is, will I have food today? The economy is built around the harvest. Harvest is good, everything is fine, life is set. Harvest fails, this could cost the life of not just you or half of your 8 children, but it could question the existence of entire state. Don't believe me? The Great French Revolution of 1789 was largely caused by the harvest failure, the very same one that started with bread riots. During the 10-year revolution, most of the nobility was executed, including King and the Queen Marie Antoinette, who was falsely credited with the phrase, "Let them eat cake." The revolution ended with the arrival of Napoleon. The famine in the Russian Empire. 1891. Vladimir Lenin appeared first time. What happened that year forever shaped his worldview.
It is the result of the Tsarist regime.
In total, up to 60% of revolutions in Europe were triggered by famine due to crop failure. Only the remaining part was due to politics, religion, and other incidents. What did the needs of the majority look like back then? If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, here it is, the first step. That is where the majority of people were. All companies in the world exist to satisfy the needs of their clients. Therefore, the global labor market before the Industrial Revolution looked like this. 90% of the able-bodied population plowed the land. The remaining 10% were everyone else, merchants, artisans, priests, and others. Then the most interesting part begins, the Industrial Revolution. Factories, railroads, machines, automation. People leave the fields for the cities to become workers, engineers, inventors. Another magic concept of that time appears. Salary. Not food for tomorrow, but something you could save, use to buy a house, or anything you want. According to Maslow, this is a level of safety. People stop thinking only about survival and start thinking about the future. The economy now revolves around the stability provided by production. A machine doesn't care if it's raining, it keeps working. This is when the middle class appears. People who finally have confidence in tomorrow. By the end of the 19th century, 30% of people work in agriculture, 60% work in factories, and about 10% are in services. Here is where it gets really interesting. People stop trading milk for corn, corn for meat, and so on. Real money and goods appear, and most importantly, goods other than food. Moreover, goods appear that can substantially multiply your company's income. Let's imagine ourselves in the shoes of an entrepreneur from the same agro sector when the first tractor was produced. You are standing in front of it. You know only one method of making money. You take a peasant, he plows the field, maybe with a horse if you like it. And now, right in front of you is technology. A salesman promises it will flip your understanding of agriculture upside down. The numbers look really cool. Replaces 40 men. Buy it a bundle with a seeder and harvester, get a 30% discount on the package. Replace 80 people in the field. The price is also impressive. 150 annual salaries of a peasant. How do you make a decision? You live in a world where there isn't a single person who has used a tractor and knows anything about it. Or let's simplify the task. You heard that somewhere on a neighboring farm they implemented a tractor, but they implemented it just now. What if my peasants can figure out this novelty and it just sits here? How many times will this break in the near future? How much will repairs cost? These are questions without answers. And if this thing breaks very often and repairs are very expensive, you could go bankrupt. On the other hand, peasants. Peasants are reliable as a clock. A peasant isn't going anywhere. He has a family to feed. So how does the situation look? Large farms implement tractors. First, they can afford to keep both the tractor and the workers and eventually check if the economics work out. Second, it's a status symbol. It helps the both company and the owner satisfy the step of the need for recognition. Medium farms can afford the technology, but for them it's too risky. Some will buy, but many will wait. Small farms simply cannot afford the solution. Let's move to the 20th, 21st centuries. Factory production is automated, machines do the work for us, and value shifts to the information and human capital. Currently, in developed countries, the labor markets look like this. About 3% in agriculture, somewhere around 20-25% in manufacturing, and the remaining 70-80% is employment in services. Just think about it. The modern labor market is about 70% service-based, just as the human body is about 70% water. What does it mean for us? Drink 2 liters of water a day and you'll become the best salesperson in the world. Oh my god, I love pop science. Education, healthcare, IT, tourism, entertainment, this is now the main economy. Don't underestimate the service market. In the American Fortune 500, out of the top 10 companies, 7 provide services. Even entertainment varies. Take Disney, on the 46th line, the same list. You might think Disney makes money on the movies about the Black Mermaid, but 70% of the company's profit is created by Disneylands. According to Maslow, we are at the stage where the majority of people are going through the stage of belonging, recognition, and self-actualization. We passed the level of total belonging in the 20th century. When the color of your tie determined who you were. Liberal, communist, nationalist, Maoist. Now belonging is more fragmented and people identify themselves more as Harry Potter fans or furry culture enthusiasts. Now people seek meaning, development, interest in work and social approval. The economy is no longer connected to survival. It is about wellness. Look around. You take taxis, maintain your beauty, get additional education, fly to other countries for vacation. Now back to negotiations. Even if we use the spin selling methodology, it's not always clear to everyone what we need to find. A person has their own Maslow step, and company or a specific direction of a company can also have one. Here are few examples. If we say that big companies have many expensive employees who seek recognition and self-actualization, they can hardly be proud of a job where they perform the function of a worker at a weaving loom. Only instead of pedals, you have a keyboard. No one wants to tell their family or friends in the evening, I spent the whole day compiling an Excel sheet. So, when you have invented an AI that monitors a person all day and eventually fills out the Excel for them, you are not selling a filled Excel sheet and not the speed of filling it. The company already has filled Excel sheets, and filling it in 10 seconds instead of one day changes nothing. You are selling the improvement of employee lifetime value. Because hiring new employees is very expensive and old ones start living in the company longer. There is no outflow of knowledge and expertise from the company. An experienced employee brings the company many times more money than a newcomer. And if you also remove the routine from him, experienced employees can be switched to more high margin and inspiring tasks. Eventually, you realize that maybe you went to negotiation with the CTO in vain, whereas the HRD would have listened to such a thing with pleasure. It is much harder to realize when you have already spent investor money on marketing to an audience that isn't interested. Now imagine that in front of you is a very young company. It is in their interest to manage their budget reasonably and carefully. But sitting in front of you is a serial entrepreneur who already has experience launching a dozen successful businesses. In this case, despite the fact that the company is at the stage of building safety, the owner has already gone far ahead and is at the stage of self-actualization. In this case, you need to understand, why did this business appear at all? It is foolish to sell him the same thing he did in all previous cases, because he definitely has proven people who are capable of doing the same thing. You might think this business is needed to be a business and earn money, but actually this might be a business about which the owner at dinner with friends on Friday night can say, we have the first restaurant in London where every dish is constructed and cooked by AI. Selling safety to this person, you will lose. Or another case, in front of you is a huge corporation that has been on the market since the moment your grandmother gathered her things and moved to the city. But the meeting is conducted by just one of hundreds of ordinary managers. He might not be interested in the bright future and prestige of company on the market at all. Perhaps all day he is thinking about how to close his plan next month. Otherwise, he won't get a bonus and won't be able to pay his bills. It turns out the company is already at the level of self-actualization, but the manager is at safety. This manager decides whether to let you go further or not. If you don't close his need for safety, you won't pass to the next negotiations. This all means that the very first mistake we make in sales is thinking of a company as some single independent creature, one that functions according to some rules of its own and follows its own desires. But companies are people who work in them, and people buy from people. Look right here. This is the Gartner hype cycle. In the era of the 20th, 21st centuries, we can count how many times we passed through technologies comparable to AI. Like the radio, the mass adoption of TVs, the invention of the blue LED and the spread of LED screens, the dot-coms, and so on. The Gartner hype cycle describes how the market reacts to new technologies, when it inflates, when it clears up and falls, and when it starts to grow again. In an economic era where 80% is services, the middle of the market is now huge. Imagine the biggest consumer for you is not factories, but companies that provide services. This is one more reason why I'm recording this video. The rapid growth in the number of entrepreneurs in the world, especially young ones. In the cohorts 18 to 24 and 25 to 34, the number of entrepreneurs has reached 25%, according to research by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor. That is every fourth person. That means people are becoming entrepreneurs who are either new to the labor market or have never worked in a company at all. But all entrepreneurs are driven by the exact same fear as when the tractor appeared. Can you survive a market contraction if you don't have clients right now? In the following videos, we will analyze how to create a feeling of safety for the client, how to find the true need, what it looks like, and what to do with it afterwards.